Fry, you're the first one. It's Christmas time again. Santa crawls down my chin. Will he judge me for my sins? I know not. Except that son of a bitch better have brought my Xbox. Yeah. If he didn't, I will kill him. If I see his punk ass at the mall, I'll wear some spiked underwear and then just fucking tear up his lap. Hell yeah. Woo, woo. Freedom comes in many forms. It's like a patriotic song. That'd be funny. That was actually an ad for the Marines. Rachel with the 4 months. Welcome back to the Buttersock Cult. Says, I haven't been able to make it to stream in a while. I'm glad to make it today. Good to see you, Rachel. Always good to see all these beautiful, familiar faces. Even Cashy P is making a celebrity drop by. One of the OGs of the OGs. Some would call her an elder god. Question, how long did it take me to get this many subs? Well, you know, some people are DOMs, some are sub. Honestly, since 2014, to be honest with you. I didn't necessarily really ever pop off. I would say once things started to actually find their groove, it was like anywhere from 300 to 500 subs a day for frickin' forever, dude. It took a long time. Blondie with the 5 says, had a bad day and I really hoping you do a live tonight, and I'm so happy to caught you. Thanks for always making me laugh. You're welcome, Blonde. Good to see you, and thank you for the 5. Get cozy, get comfortable, and get ready to say the Pledge of Allegiance to Let's Read. Just kidding. But this is the last batch of Christmas stories for the holiday season, so I hope you like them. It's going to be legit. Alex Love, welcome back for 2 frickin' years. I guess 2 years constitutes the fedora emoji, and you've unlocked it. 2 years, baby. God, I definitely need this stream to cheer me up. I found out that I have arthritis in my spine. I'm only 21. Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Alex. Shit. I'm trying to think what advice I would have for that, but I really have no idea what to do, other than maybe, perhaps, possibly now's the time to become a yogi in the form of yoga, to just maintain a constant and everlasting sense of flexibility so as not to, I don't know, upset that autoimmune response. But it's hard to say, and I'm sorry to hear that, but welcome back for 2 years, and I hope you get it figured out. I know you will. Lynn with the 5. Thank you, Lynn. Says, just popping in, spending time with the fam tonight. Just wanted to say happy holidays to Joel and all the Buttersocks. A cup of lean for Padeep. Thank you. His pinky is up as he sips upon it, filling his tum-tum. And I hope you have a good time with your family, Lynn. Thank you. Hope everybody's having a good time. I hope everybody gets to spend time with friends or family or somebody this holiday. This holiday, we gonna meet up and have a good old time. Nikki with the eye patch. Welcome to the Buttersock Cult. Thank you. Good to see you. Oh, you now have access to bonus content, by the way. 15 bonus videos. Which shit. Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah. I will try to find time to record the bonus stuff. What about, like, recording bonus content during the streams? Does that, like, upset anybody who has access to bonus content? Almost like they didn't need to become a member to, like, hear it at least once? Even though they won't hear it in its, like, most pure form. I was thinking maybe I could record the bonus content during a future stream before the end of the year here, which is in like a week. Well, dude, well, thanks, because it really helped with work. I'm glad all your hard work has been discovered. Thank you, Young Glock. Good to see you. Wort. Whoa, wooga. Sorry, someone's making Halo references. You gotta acknowledge it. Joel ignoring my greatness anal. There it is. The greatest anal you've ever seen, right here in my chat. And David De La Rosa with a big 10 says, "Hi Joel, just wanted to say thank you. Have an awesome Christmas. Send us some cold weather deep south Texas." I wish we could, honestly. It was fucking snow all day. Roads are dog shit. And now it's going to be like sleet. It's like icy rain and sleet in tomorrow. So I'm hoping the roads get nice and pre-salted to protect us. You gotta do what you gotta do. Do the Halo sound again. Wort. Whoa, wooga booga. I forget what he said. Wooga booga. They just say weird stuff. Wow. Sadly, the newest Halo Infinite was not really my favorite, to be honest with you. It was definitely a fun experience, I feel like, for anybody who hasn't played Halo. But there was something about the open world that I was like not a super fan of, you know what I mean? Because it was almost as if though you were experiencing the same thing over and over again, just within a sort of sandbox style, rather than, I feel like they could have constructed almost like a more centralized tunnel, not, doesn't have to be like a, straight up walking down a hallway simulator Halo, but there was something about the missions, they were a lot more memorable when there wasn't like bosses that were like bullet sponges and like environments that all kind of like blended in together. It just sort of got repetitive. You've been awake 7 hours. That's a good amount of time. That's like peak awakeness, I imagine, right? It's been like 15 all day in Texas. Really? Interesting. I wonder if you're in North Texas or anyone in the path of that winter storm on the eastern side of North America. I hope you stay safe and warm. Well, thank you. I think I constitute as such. Hi, Pernippy. He's sitting on his little cat tree perch, just staring into my soul, wondering why I've gone insane, talking into a microphone. Maybe he thinks I'm talking to him. You should shout out the live at the end of your vids. Oh, that's a good point, actually. Be sure to check out a live stream. Yeah, I never do that, so maybe I should get more people to come join. You wish your life ends during the winter? Nah, that would suck. It'd be so hard to bury people during the winter because the ground would be so hard. You just have to be like chipping away at it and you just make more work for everyone. Redheaded stepchild with the 2 says Siberia can have the cold front back. I know, right? It's freaking bad. I don't even know where Siberia is. It sounds Russian and scary. LaFay 045 with the 10. Thank you, LaFay. Why an astronaut? Well, it was initially when I first started the channel, I was reading science fiction and horror, so I thought the skeleton astronaut was the perfect mixture. Hey, Cider. It was negative 25 Fahrenheit last night. Felt like my face was burning while Rob and I were feeding the chickens and turkeys. You gotta do what you gotta do. I can't imagine what the outdoor animals are feeling like. How do they even survive in cyberspace? Oh, you just meant your social life? Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I took that a bit far. That grave chipping reminded me of that one episode of Dahmer. I haven't seen that. Is it? I heard it was, I don't know. How cold is it for me? Well, earlier it was cold enough to be snowing and sticking, really gross, but now it's gone back up and it was like rainy, so it's like 39 right now. But it sucks because like as the night goes on, it's probably gonna fucking get freezing temperatures, and then the road's gonna freeze, and then everybody in the morning when they go to work is gonna crash and die, and it's just gonna be a pain in the butt. Am I right? I'm having such a crappy day, and I just seen that you were live and I had to come join. Much love and happy holidays. Thank you, Cheyenne. I appreciate you, and I hope your day gets better. We'll try to make it better. We got another 7 minutes here before we kick off the reading time. Holy shit, Cashy P, welcome back for 53 months. My God, how long? I can't even do the math for that. It's like over 4 years in the Buttersock cult. One of the elder gods, as I said. Oh my God, Letry, please wish me a Merry Christmas in a weird voice.
Oh, yes. Merry Christmas, Cashy. It's gonna be so cool when you get to sit on Santa's big red sack.
There you go. Twitter brought you here. Well, welcome, Skateboard Web 3. Like I said, anybody who's new here, for the first 20 minutes or so, we just chit-chat for a bit. You can see the timer in the top right, and then I'll switch up to a spooky reading screen with some spooky music, and then I will be recording tomorrow's stories for our Monday, Wednesday, Friday video. Tomorrow's Friday, and they are Christmas stories. We got about, I think, 7 or 8 of those. The Hitsubasa, welcome back to the Buttersock cult. You now have, well, you still have access to bonus content. I sound like the puppet goblins from Labyrinth. Perfect. That's exactly what I was going for. I deserve an Oscar, yes. Oscar de la Hoya. You're on vacation till January 3rd. Let's go. Anybody else here done with, well, I assume you're all done with finals at this point. Any devilish professor giving out finals at December 22nd would deserve nothing but torture. David De La Rosa Jr. with the 2. David, what's your profile picture? Did you draw that? Is that a little cowboy? Like hit with the snow? I did, yeah. The snow is not great, but you know, here in Pennsylvania, we're kind of used to that shit, so clean it up real fast. What are my plans for Christmas? Well, it's gonna be with the fam. And me mom, she is currently taking care of me grandma, as she is in her latter years of life. And so it's her, you know, they got a big family. They kind of rotate family members for kind of taking care and that kind of thing. So this is her weekend to be with her on Friday and Saturday. So her immediate family, including myself, are going to come down, and we're all just going to eat at Grandma's house. Wahoo! We're going to have fucking cookies and shit. Probably a big old roast beast. We're going to eat a Grinch. We're going to eat green eggs and ham. We're going to butcher a Grinch. We found it up in the mountains. cut its fucking throat. Saute that shit. Devlin will welcome. Stick around for the fun times. Does your alert say mischievous dog? It might. It's going to be -6 when I get to work in the morning. Well, be sure to put if your car is outside, I don't know if it will be, but put your little windshield wipers up so they don't get frozen to your shit. Do the Stewie. Wait, do the voice Stewie does to Brian and Family Guy when he's writing a book. What does he say? Oh, Brian, what does this say here? Oh, I don't know, Stewie. I can't do everybody's. I can't even do Stewie's voice. It just But I don't remember that episode. I feel like I vaguely remember him writing a book. Or like Brian writing one where he's got like his muscles on like the back end of it. Do you have a holiday treat you don't really like? A holiday treat I don't really like. Fuck. Fucking hell. I feel like there's got to be like a cookie of sorts that is just more of a pain in the ass to eat than it is compared to the other good cookies. A question, have you ever felt like another year but no girlfriend yet? I don't think that's a good mentality to have. Like, I don't really think you need to think about life and think about it, the only way you can be happy or the next year is going to be better is if you have like some arbitrary, sort of hypothetical individual that's going to make you happy. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like the only way to really make yourself happy, or the only thing you really can do is to make yourself happy. And the way you do that is through probably exercise, probably eating healthy, making those kinds of changes, probably working towards a goal, whether it's like, school or career goals or creative outlets or something, maybe a mixture of all of that together. You know what I mean? Like the relationship stuff, you can put the time in as well. Maybe you meet somebody at work, maybe you meet somebody on Hinge or whatever the fuck, but at the end of the day, that's a lot of weight, I feel like, to put on another human being, your happiness, and then I think they can kind of sense that sort of, anybody can sense that sort of weight that you're putting on them as like expecting you to be their person all the time. Like it makes sense after a period of time and it sort of builds up that way, but I feel like overall, if you're just going to come out the gate kind of in that position, you're not going to be set up for success. You know what I mean? So I think just focus on yourself. I say that shit a lot, but it's true. And I've heard it a million times from every silly guru on the internet. Just do you, do you, put yourself first. You don't have to be like selfish, but you can be selfish to a degree. You can smell the desperation. Fairy can smell it. It emanates from the pits. There's a desperation gland in there. It just stinks. Just fucking stinks of weakness. You can smell it in every little boy. So that sounded weird. Anyways. But yeah, just do your thing. Just talk to the lizards. Exactly. If you have honestly, I don't like lizards that much. Never been a big fan of reptiles. Never really enjoyed alligators or snakes or even gecko. I mean, geckos aren't terrible, but there's something about them that's just like unpredictable. You know what I mean? And I know some people can have good relationships with reptiles, or amphibians and things of that nature, but I just never trusted them. I cast my sandal heel upon their forehead. Not actually, but just not really. You're a dog person, yeah. I feel you. Oh shit, it's read time, baby. Let's get it. Let's get it. Yes, bro. Once again, guys, thanks for being here. Click that like button. Click share, if you'd be so kind, to all your social medias. Let them know this guy is my favorite fucking narrator / streamer and the coolest man on earth. He will cure all of your ailments with his voice alone. It's really the least you could do. You talk to your dog. She loves the sound of my voice and she's a great listener. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the old saying. If you want a friend, get a fucking dog. But that's neither here nor there. We need to focus on Christmas. There's only 365 more days until Christmas. It's your birthday, Jenny. Happy birthday to ya. What's my favorite video game? I don't know. I really like Fez. Fez was fun. But I mean, I feel like I just kind of saying that. Celeste was cool. Did you guys ever play Celeste? I like those like simple indie side-scrolling games that are like puzzle solving as well. Maybe a little bit of platforming, puzzle solving. Little nightmares, things like that. I started playing that like third game in the series of like Limbo Inside. It's called Somerville. Haven't finished it yet. It was kind of a slow start, just because the mechanics of the game are kind of like you're supposed to use your powers to like solve puzzles, but it's kind of slow and not very exciting. Whereas I feel like the previous games were a lot more darker and there was a lot more like violence to it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like in the sense it was like a shooter or anything like that, but it was just like whenever you would die, sometimes you could experiment and see if your character got smushed by something, and I thought that shit was kind of hilarious. But now whenever you get smushed by something, it just goes black. Dude, look up Eastward? Okay, yeah, to look that up. What's that one about? Alright, yes, so like I said, we got 8 stories here tonight, my friends. We'll just kick it off. What do you say? Oh wait, I might have to clear out my... Oh no, we're good. We Gucci. We Gucci with the moochie. My dad was really into having traditions on Christmas. Only we didn't actually have any traditions of our own as a family at all, really. So my dad did what any dad would do. He looked up family traditions online and picked the first thing that came up. And that was cutting down a Christmas tree in the woods as a family. My mom hated the idea almost as much as I did, but we decided to go along with it to make him happy. Only thing was, we lived in a regular suburban city with a small backyard and no trees fit for Christmas. This meant that we'd have to drive into the mountains and hike until we found the perfect tree. Dad had it planned out. We would leave early Saturday morning, about 3 weeks before Christmas, drive up into the mountains, find a place to park along a main road, then search for the perfect tree. Exciting, right? Wrong. The drive took longer than expected since the road up the mountains is also the road skiers and snowboarders take up to the resort. This means hours and hours of traffic until Dad decided the main road was no longer suitable for our needs. So he pulled off onto a random dirt road that led up deeper and deeper into the woods until we found a place to park. At this point, my mom kept mentioning to my dad that we were probably on private property and that we should just leave and get a Christmas tree from a lot like everyone else did. He was not having that, though. He had us all get out of the car and locked it, leading the way into the very ominous-looking forest in front of us. He just brushed off the private property thing altogether. It was already getting late and dark, and all my mom and I wanted to do was go home. We would tell Dad that we found a good tree, but he always responded that it had to be perfect, and that what we found just wasn't right. It felt like we were in there for hours before he found the tree he wanted. He cut it down with the axe that he'd been lugging around and then tied a rope to the trunk of the tree and told us all to pull. It was torture. The tree was heavy and we were already tired. Plus, pulling a full-size tree through snow is way harder than you'd think. There was a steep part of the trail that made life even harder with this stupid tree dragging behind us. I kept thinking how that day couldn't get any worse. I must have jinxed myself or something because it got way worse, and very quickly. After the tree had gotten snagged on a bush and we were all bending down to get it free, we heard a loud boom, and the sound of a bullet hitting the tree beside my father's head was like nothing I'd ever been in, nothing, what? Nothing I never would have been able to... Oh, I see. Uh-oh. Old man Jenkins coming down from the mountain. It's the Grinch. The Grinch should have had a gun. That's what he should have did when he went down into Whoville. I feel like that would have been much better. Or if, like, the Grinch maybe had, like, a nuclear device or something. Bush, bush, in the bush. In the bush. In the bush. After the tree had gotten snagged on a bush and we were all bending down to get it free, we heard a loud boom, and the sound of a bullet hitting the tree beside my father's head was like nothing I never would have been able to prepare myself for. The bark exploded and we all jumped backwards. More bullets began flying around us, almost hitting me. My dad grabbed me and my mother by our coats and dragged us behind a nearby boulder and told us to stay still. My mom was clutching onto her stomach. I knew something was wrong. I looked at my dad and got his attention just long enough to tell him that Mom needed help. He rushed to her side and asked her what was wrong. She removed her hand from her stomach, and underneath was a pool of blood building up in her coat. My father's love for my mom, his wife, I'm sure is the only reason we all got out of there alive. He took his coat off and tore his shirt into a strip of fabric long enough to wrap around my mom's waist to cover the wound. He lifted her coat and shirt and did his best to tie it around her without hurting her too much. My mom was calm, but you would see the fear in her eyes as she begged my dad to save her. He was crying, I was crying. It was a mess. The bullets stopped around 30 seconds every minute or so, and this gave us enough time for my dad to carry my mom on his back as we ran for the next hiding place that would shield us from gunfire. We were still about a mile from the car, and Dad and I both thought Mom wasn't going to make it. Cell service was horrible up in the mountain, but I kept trying regardless. My dad kept telling, whoops. Reminds you of American Dad. Oh my god. David De La Rosa with the 5 says, Jesse, yo, Mr. White, it's Christmas. Did you get me a gift, Mr. White? Jesse, just keep cooking. No days off. Aw, man, Mr. White. That's kind of disappointing and all. Doesn't seem like the right Christmas spirit. Jesse, I'm just joking. He's Batman all of a sudden. Check under the tree, Jesse. Oh, Mr. White, you shouldn't have. A new pipe. Use it well, Jesse. Use it well. I guess you really aren't the Grinch like they say you is. Jesse, shut the fuck up and get back to reading. We were still about a mile from the car, and Dad and I both thought Mom wasn't going to make it. Cell service was horrible up in the mountain, and I kept trying regardless. My dad kept yelling that we were humans, not deer, and to stop shooting, but it never did. The daylight went away, and we were left in total darkness, too scared to turn on a flashlight. We didn't want to disclose our location to whoever it was trying to kill us. The moonlight between the trees... The moon lit between the trees just enough for us to make out the pathway back. Every so often, I kid you not, another bullet would fly by. We'd hear it whizzing, and we'd have to ask each other if we were okay since it was too dark to tell otherwise. All I wanted was to go home. I prayed and prayed to God to please let us get out of there. Mom had started losing consciousness, and we assumed from the blood loss. Dad was doing his best to watch over me and carry my mom to safety, but our hope was dwindling fast. And finally we saw it. Not the road we'd come from, but the main road. And that's And that's when we realized the path we'd been taking wasn't our own. It was the person who was out there with us. It was the persons. That's when we realized the path we'd been taking wasn't our own. It was the person's who was out there with us. We looked around, paranoid that whoever it was watching us, but the second we stepped out of the forest and stood along the road next to the cars, we felt safe. My dad flagged down a minivan driving by, and thankfully they stopped. We piled in, and they drove as quickly as they could to the nearest hospital up the mountain. They drove on the shoulder of the road when traffic got too bad. We made it there, and Mom was taken back immediately. She went right into emergency surgery, and my dad and I were checked for injuries. I made it out with minor scrapes and bruising, but my dad had actually been shot in the thigh and hadn't even realized it. The doctors said his body must have been running on so much adrenaline that it shielded him from any pain that he might have felt. My mom was really lucky. The surgeon said the bullet was only a centimeter from hitting some... The surgeon said the bullet was only a centimeter from hitting multiple vital organs. She had still lost a lot of blood and was placed in a medically induced coma for a couple of weeks while her body healed. We told the police exactly what happened and even took them to the property where it had happened, but they were unable to find... But they found nothing. It was public land and there were no houses nearby for miles. The person who did that to us was doing it for fun. They told us it was highly possible whoever it was had actually followed us into the forest just to terrorize or kill us. The question of why would never be answered. The police closed the investigation only a year later, stating that there were no leads whatsoever and the case apparently went cold. But I'm so grateful to have made it out alive. I just wish the man who'd done that to us would be brought to justice. And so much for making family traditions. Although, now our family tradition is getting a Although now our family tradition is getting a Christmas tree from a lot, like normal families do. Jesse, what the fuck? Why'd you shoot at those people? Yo, Mr. White. They almost stumbled across our cooking operation. Christmas. Yo, happy Christmas, y'all. From Tristan. Any paranormal stories tonight? I don't think so. I guess we'll see as we go along, maybe. Merry Christmas. Whoever said those Santas who sit outside of stores and ask for donations are good people, well, you're wrong. I never liked the cheap-looking Santas who ring the... Whoa! I'm wearing a Santa outfit right now. Jingle, jingle bells. D. Shore with a 3555 twerkable amount says, Merry, merry, happy, happy to one and all. Thank you, D. Shore. Appreciate you. As always. Thank you, thank you. Throwing it into my pot. My large money pot outside of Walmart. And David De La Rosa with the 2 says, thank you, Joe, you're the best. Thank you, David. Oh yeah, what should I name the video tomorrow? I kind of feel like naming it something, something trolly, Because like in previous years I said like Christmas stories to jingle your bells. But I was thinking, what's like another pun? Like another, it could be horror related or... Well, preferably Christmas horror, but I don't know if you guys think of something. Dank Christmas stories, exactly. Name it just stories, all lowercase. Stories. Just every video from now on is just called stories. I never liked the cheap-looking Santas who ring the bells asking for money. It just always seemed a little too gimmicky to me. They could ask for donations out of costume. Doesn't confuse kids anyways when they see 5 Santa... Oh, doesn't it? Doesn't it confuse kids anyways when they see 5 Santas across 2 city blocks? It was Christmas 2011, and it was also the first year that I'd be spending the holiday alone. I had just broken up with my boyfriend of 5 years, and I didn't want to spend the money to fly to my hometown to spend the day with my family. So alone on Christmas was what it was. I planned to make a small chicken dinner for myself, but realized that I'd forgotten some ingredients. It was still a few days before Christmas, so I had time to go to the store before they closed for the holiday. It was around 10 p.m., and I decided to just walk to the store quickly so I wouldn't have to go back out again until after Christmas. The walk to the store was uneventful, but of course the walk back wouldn't be so peaceful. After getting my groceries and exiting the store, I was met with a cheap Santa ringing a bell in my face and asking for donations for the local children's hospital. I had no cash or change on me and politely told him so, but he wouldn't take no for an answer though. He blocked the sidewalk and told me how it was for the kids and that I shouldn't be selfish on Christmas. I guess he thought I was lying about not having any physical money on me. When I mentioned that I only carried my credit card on me, he pulled out his phone with one of those swipe attachments on it and told me I could donate that way. I'm sorry, but who is comfortable with swiping their card on a random man's phone claiming it's for donations? And that's exactly what I told him. He looked offended, but finally got out of my way. I was uncomfortable by then and just wanted to get home. I got to the end of the block and out of pure curiosity decided to look back. I had a feeling that he was staring at me, only he wasn't just staring at me. He had picked up his bucket. Oh, okay. Christmas stories that'll roast your nuts. That's pretty good. Christmas stories to spike your eggnog. Christmas stories that'll deck you with a tree. Stories from Santa. Christmas, Name the Silent Night, Dead of Night. Christmas stories to get your mom shot too. Jeez. Clearly Santa mastered the shadow clone jujitsu. Deck the halls with bouts of horror. Oh yeah, I guess stories to deck your halls. That wouldn't be bad. It's Slash season. Have you ever watched Black Lagoon anime? I'm planning on binge watching it after the stream. Nice. No, I don't think I've ever heard of it. Stocking stuffers for your Christmas pleasure. Oh yeah, Christmas stories to stuff your stocking. Well, yeah, I guess I went scaries. 8 true scary Christmas stories to stuff your stocking. I don't know. Deck your halls might be because it's like shorter words. I don't want it to be like too wordy that, like you'd ever see a title on a video and it's like so long you can't even see the end of it. He had picked up his change bucket and was holding it in one hand as he stood in my direction. He had picked up his change bucket and was holding it in one hand as he stared in my direction, looking directly at me. The light changed, and it was my turn to cross the street as I hurried. Wait, what? I thought they were in the store. I had a feeling. Wait, I was uncomfortable. I got to the end of the end of the block. Okay. Joel, this is a family stream, is it? That's up to the family, man. That's not on me. Christmas stories to see when you're sleeping. To see you when you're sleeping, yeah. Christmas stories to stuff your stockings. And you, ... Wink. Winky emoji. I think I did put an emoji in, like, gym stories or something. The comments were funny, like, wow, we're doing emojis now? Deck the halls with scary stories. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. Wait, I feel like it's just confusing, though, to, like, for like the general population. Deck the halls with 8 scary stories. I feel like that's like more of a phrase that you would say on a commercial promoting it, for sure. I don't fucking know. Christmas horror stories that'll scare you nice. Scare the nice in you. Scare the naughty out of you. Slash Gashin, all in good fashion. Sugar your plums. To egg your nog. Anybody up? Who's up nogging their egg? Egging they nog. He had picked up his change bucket and was holding it in one hand as he stood in my direction, looking directly at me. The light changed and it was my turn to cross the street, and I hurried quickly through the intersection. I looked back after crossing and saw the Santa guy now walking in my direction. I felt my heart beating faster as I began to panic and wonder if he was going to follow me. My suspicions were confirmed when I watched him press the button to cross the street. He had a small smirk on his face when he realized that I knew what he was doing. He found the fact that I was scared amusing, it seemed. I picked up the pace and walked quickly to the end of the next block until I had to wait to cross the street again. The horror set in. The horror truly set in as the Santa man got closer and closer. And finally it was time to cross, and this time I took zero shame in sprinting down the sidewalk. I took a second to look back and screamed a small scream when I realized that he was now running toward me as well. He was laughing when I screamed, and all I wanted was to be locked away, safe in my apartment. Now, I'm not the most in-shape person, and I definitely wasn't back then either, so all that running was making me completely out of breath and tired. I knew that there was no way I'd be able to run all the way back to my apartment building without him catching up to me, and I really didn't want to know what he had planned for when he actually did catch up to me. So I decided to take a quick right into the diner on the corner of the street and wait for Santa Man to get bored and just go home. I sat at a booth by the window and looked out to see if he was still following me. It seemed like 5 minutes or so passed, and I didn't see him, and I sighed, thinking that it was finally over. I even laughed a little at the whole situation and how ridiculous it was. A Santa chasing me down the street must have looked pretty funny to somebody else. Except it wasn't over, and my laughing ceased when I looked out the window again, and there he was, staring at me from across the street. Changed seats, so I was sitting more towards the middle of the diner, hopefully out of his view. I ordered some food and sat there for a couple of hours until the place was closing. They told me that I had to leave, and walking out of that place was truly terrifying. The Santa man was no longer standing across the street, but that made it even scarier. How was I supposed to know that he was... Oops. Why didn't you just call the police then? Just tell the people, some fucking Santa guy's chasing me. All I want for Xmas, and the words are in red and have some drawn blood on them. Well, it has to be in, like, the title, which you can't really... I mean, I guess on the thumbnail you could do that, but... Stories to frighten your Christmas spirit. To put coal in your stocking. 8 true naughty stories for you coal stuffers. How was I supposed to know if he was still waiting for me, lurking in the shadows somewhere? The second my feet hit the concrete of the sidewalk, I was back to sprinting. I hadn't even planned to keep running. It was like my body had a mind of its own to save itself. And thankfully it did, because I heard the sound of someone running behind me only seconds after I got going. I glanced back quickly, and there he was, Santa Man, chasing me yet again. Only this time he was laughing like some psychopath. I finally made it back to my apartment building and scanned my card to get me through the door. I shut it quickly behind me, and the relief of the Santa Man not being able to push the door open was truly satisfying. I walked slowly up the stairs, totally exhausted when I heard the door buzz open. Down the steps, I saw Santa Man open the door, stop at the bottom of the stairs and say, "Someone's always expecting someone." He then lunged up the first steps, and there continued the chase. I was already a few flights above him, but he was quick. I got to my floor only around 10 seconds before him, but he was able to get in my... What the fuck? Jesus, this is escalating like excessively quick, and I feel like it's about to fucking end. I got to the floor only around 10 seconds before him, but he was able to get in my apartment and lock the door behind me before he could get to me. Wait, I would... But... Oh, I see. Why didn't they call the cops? I don't understand. MT with the 2 says world's cheapest friend, but Merry Christmas, Joel. No worries. Cheapest friend? Not at all. Destiny is live right now and he has blue hair. Dude, me too, man. Me too. I got to my floor only around 10 seconds before him, but he was able to get in my apartment. Why do I keep saying he? I don't know why I keep saying the word he. I got to my floor only around 10 seconds before him, but was able to get in my apartment and lock the door before me behind. I don't know what the fuck I'm seeing. I got to my floor only around 10 seconds before him, but was able to get in my apartment and lock the door behind me before he could get to me. He pounded on my door and told me that wouldn't have happened if I had just donated some money to the children, and that I was the awful person in this scenario. He kept saying, "That'll teach you. You always donate now." And he was right. Ever since, I'll always donate to the donation Santas every year. I never know if he's one of the men behind the mask, waiting for me to deny him only to chase me down yet again. I won't risk it. Now, I did call the police, but they said without a description other than Santa, they couldn't really do anything about what had happened. I debated on moving, just leaving that area, but instead I made a point not to go out much anymore during Christmas. I never, ever want to come across that Santa man, ever again. Donate. See, anybody who's donated tonight, I won't come to your house. Everybody else, no, I'm just kidding. Wearing a Santa outfit. That's what I'm wondering, like, like they got inside, got up to their apartment, and then like looked downstairs. I don't know, maybe they had a few more floors to go or some shit like that. I don't know. There's just a lot of information not necessarily conveyed in that like small span of time. They pissed off Krampus. It might have been Krampus. Uh-oh. I come in your house and I'm like, all right. Oh shit. And I look and the door's locked behind me. Fuck. Every year for Christmas, my family volunteers at the local homeless shelter, helping hand out food and keeping people comfortable around the holidays. It can be an especially hard time for them, and we try to make it as good of a time as we can. Only one year, when I was only 16 years old, things got a little weird and very creepy. I was finally old enough to not have to be supervised by one of my parents, and I was excited. I loved helping out. My parents didn't have much time to volunteer throughout the week because of work, but I was off for winter break and decided volunteering a little extra was a great way to spend my time. A little bit about the homeless shelter that we volunteered at. All of the people who stayed there had to undergo. Now, a little bit about the homeless shelter that we volunteered at. All of the people who stayed there had to undergo voluntary background checks. No one with serious violent offenses were allowed to stay there or anything like that. This was to ensure the safety of our residents. Every now and then, a few people with those types of offenses would slip through the cracks and we'd have a problem, but it was always taken care of quickly. No one was ever seriously injured or anything like that in those instances. Well, about a week before Christmas, I was helping out in the kitchen when a man came in and asked for some food. He was one of the residents staying with us for a few days, so he didn't know the rules yet. I informed him that he wasn't allowed where the food was made and that dinner was served at 7. He didn't seem very pleased by that, but turned around and walked out when he saw that I wasn't alone. He was a big guy, so I was relieved that he didn't cause a problem. If he wanted to, with his size, he could have done some real damage. Only at the time I had no idea that he had priors that involved violence, drugs, and a reputation for extreme anger issues. No one at the shelters tells the minors anything like that. Now the next day I came in and was setting up the Christmas tree in the main hall when the same man came up to me and asked if he could help. I told him he could, and he was great to have around to put ornaments on the higher parts of the tree. As I was placing some ornaments, he leaned down and whispered in my ear, "You think you can tell me what's up? I make the rules. You follow them. Got it, woman?" I was grossed out to feel his breath on my ear and the side of my face and quickly made as much space between us as possible. I stopped what I was doing and went to my superior to tell her what happened. All she said was that she'd talk to him about it later. Now later that day I asked her what had happened and she said he denied it and that because she couldn't prove it either way, she'd allow him to stay. But I was furious. He was obviously not a good person, definitely not the kind of person we usually let stay here, but I was a volunteer and there was nothing I could do than avoid him, and so I did. Anytime I saw him, I just steered clear and went about my business, only he was actively seeking me out to harass me. The next few days, he would follow me into a room, even exposing himself and laughing. Finally, on the fourth day, I recorded him doing it and showed the woman who didn't believe me before. She was horrified and apologized over and over and begged me to stay on as a volunteer after I told her that I wouldn't be back. She did kick that guy out and I went home with zero intention of ever going back. I just hadn't expected him to follow me home that day or every day after. I still live with my parents, and my dad has always been very pro-Second Amendment, if you know what I mean. We were getting ready to sit down for Christmas dinner when there was a knock on the door. My dad went up to the door and, without opening it, asked who it was. The person on the other side said that they were my boyfriend and that I had invited them over for dinner. My dad looked over at me and realized that he was lying when he saw the look of utter confusion on my face. He looked through the peephole and silently motioned me over so I could look and see who it was. Immediately, goosebumps covered my body when I saw, waiting on the other side of the door, was the man who'd been harassing me at the homeless shelter. I mouthed to my dad, "That's him." That's all it took for him to become stone cold serious. He walked to his bedroom, got his handgun from his safe. He came back into the living room and spoke through the door, telling the man to go away. The man said he wasn't leaving until I came outside, or he'd be coming inside. My dad told him he wasn't coming inside, and mouthed to my mother to call the police. She dialed 911 and went into the bathroom to make the call. We were worried that if he heard us on the phone with the police that he'd escalate things further than he may have planned. The police were 10 minutes out, and we realized quickly that we didn't... Fuck. Sky is Gaming, you like my YouTube channel. Thank you, Sky. Good to see you. It's so weird that parents told their kids about Krampus. That mofo is scary looking. Yeah, it seems like the opposite thing you want to tell kids about during Christmas time. I guess that's how you get them to be good. You either get a ton of consumeristic toys, or you get to be killed by some sort of fucking devil beast. The temp with the wind chill is negative 51 degrees Fahrenheit where you live? Jesus Christ, where are you at? Fucking Alaska? First time here, Julie? Well, thank you. You get to hear the behind the scenes. The police were 10 minutes out, and we realized quickly that we didn't have that kind of time. The man began shoving and throwing his body against the front door to no avail. He was screaming to have me come outside, but of course, there was no way that was happening. After the door started to become weaker, My dad warned the man that he had a gun and he would use it if he gained entry into the house. This didn't deter the man at all, but it made me feel so much safer that my dad was there to protect me. Eventually, the wooden door gave way, and in came the man. He immediately made a beeline for me, seeing me and making eye contact, but before he could even take 2 steps, my dad fired at his leg, and he was on the ground, writhing. Now, my dad was merciful enough to let the man live, something that I knew that he probably struggled to decide on when he saw a grown man heading for his 16-year-old daughter. In fact, he told me he considered killing him, but changed his mind a split second before shooting because he didn't feel it was right to take a man's life on Christmas. It sounds bizarre, I know, but he is the man he is, and I can't change that. Thankfully, the police arrived only minutes later, and he was taken into custody and driven to the hospital. After all this chaos finally settled down, this man was eventually charged with attempted murder and harassment, and because of the 3rd strike rule in the state, he was sentenced to life in prison. I was glad he was sentenced to life, not just because of what happened to me, but because of the things I knew he was capable of doing to other people. I'm glad no one ever has to experience violence from that man ever again, and I'm so thankful for my father. It's cold everywhere. Yeah, we getting hit. We getting hit with Jack Frost in this bitch. He's shooting his splooge all over the U.S., except the nice places. Also, if you guys have a story, do send it in to reddit.com/r/letsreadofficial, or you can send it to where many people do send it if you don't have a Reddit account, to letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com. Can you make Krampus good looking? You certainly could. You could probably use one of those AI art things to be like hot Krampus. And he's just given like a Zoolander squint. The blue steel. It's iced coffee degrees here. Here in Dallas, it's cold. Is it snowing? It's gin and tonic degrees, exactly. I gotta get some eggnog before they close. It actually sounds like a great thing to do, honestly, is drink on Christmas. I don't drink ever, but something about eggnog on Christmas with family sounds kind of great. Yeah, he gives that Krampus riz, that unspoken riz. That fucking video. Yo, check out this unspoken riz. And then he just goes up to the girl and like falls on his knees like, please, 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 please. Shit's fucking cray cray. Please make stories about evil dolls. I wanted to watch the Megan trailer. It's actually really cool. Yeah, I was curious what that's about. Is it actually about evil? Is it just like a evil Chucky thing? White Russian with eggnog. Try it. Hell yeah. Southern Comfort eggnog. Oh yeah, SoCo. I actually like SoCo. Maybe I'll get that. SoCo is like something I can drink and it's not fucking like abysmal. A little moldy wine, perhaps. Your wife still makes me go outside to smoke a joint at -51. To be honest, Sean, that sounds like a good marriage to me. Through thick and thin, and frostbite as well. Hey, David Lynch's severed ear, what's going on? The Megan trailer made me laugh my ass off. Yeah, I didn't see it. I saw like some sort of clip where it was like they're taking the real girl and then imposing her on like the 3D animated girl, and I couldn't tell if it was like I certainly couldn't tell it was a horror movie just from first glance. It definitely looked creepy, but I didn't know if it was like supposed to be some sort of Disney flick or something. Video game themed scary stories. I've done like cons, you know, like where people go to like different cons for video games and things like that, and then some games, like some stories have had video games involved where, actually, maybe I have done, actually, let me look it up real quick, because I feel like I recall doing like a whole video related to like just online gaming or something. Yeah, that's actually hilarious. So yeah, it's just called 5 True Scary Online Gaming Horror Stories 2 years ago. And it's just like people having experiences with like creeps on the internet. The greatest place ever. Skelly dude with the best voice. Thank you. Slappy from Goosebumps always scared me when I was a kid. Same here. Slappy got me fucked up, bro. Honestly, like, the one thing that just like always stuck with me forever, even more so than Chucky, was, I had talked about this before more recently, but the Tales from the Hood. And in Tales from the Hood, like the little dolls in the plantation house, you know, it's all the souls of like the slaves and stuff from back then, and they come back and kill the one dude who's like the local politician, but they fucking like eat him alive. They like eat him, and you like watch him getting eaten by these little creepy dolls. It's also really funny because the one guy, like, he's walking backwards and then he trips down the steps and breaks his neck, and then you see like one of the dolls, even though it's like the size, like it's probably the size of like 8 inches tall or something like that, but it's just like sitting against the wall with its like leg out, and I'm thinking like, that little fucking leg tripped you. If that's the fucking case, you deserve to have your neck broken. Like, that shit's hilarious. You're gonna buy medicine, Fry? How come? Puppet Master. You never heard of Tales from the Hood? Yeah, Tales from the Hood's a good movie, honestly. I think they made a few of them, to be honest, but the first one's really good. Yeah, when 8 inches, kill. I don't know why. Whenever I talk a bunch, like, my nasals get all fucking verklempt. Disney After Dark. I don't even know why I'm telling this story. Maybe out of boredom, or maybe it's some subconscious thing to get me to talk about what happened, but either way, here I am. Now, what I'm about to submit to you is what happened when I was only around 8 years old. I'm 14 now, and I still look back on it as one of the most awful experiences of my life. So my dad isn't the greatest guy in the world, never has been, but what he did to me that night is something I'll never forget. So basically, my mom decided to divorce my dad for drug-related reasons, and I decided to... Oops. So, basically, my mom decided to divorce my dad for drug-related reasons, and I didn't understand much of it at all at my young age. So when the judge asked me who I wanted to live with, I said both of my parents. I didn't know about my dad's drug problems, so I didn't know the smarter thing to do would be to say that I wanted to live with my mom at the time. So they got shared custody, and every other weekend I went to my dad's place. It was gross and dirty, but I had no choice. My mom was fighting the court's decision, but for the meantime, I had to go with him. I wasn't upset about the decision, but I will admit that I enjoyed the time that I had with my mom way more. Unfortunately, one of my dad's weekends fell on Christmas. My mom was furious when he wouldn't let her keep me for the holiday. She knew he didn't actually care about spending Christmas with me. He just didn't want my mom to have me either. My dad hadn't planned anything for the holiday and said that we'd just be spending the night in. I knew what this meant, though. He'd go out drinking and I'd just be left there alone. Again. Typical night with Dad. Well, the big day rolled around and it was spent watching TV with my dad while he smoked and downed some beers. All I kept thinking about was how much I wanted to be with my mom. 9 o'clock at night rolled around and Dad got up and said that he was leaving and said that he'd be back by 2. I hated being alone, especially in his house. People always came by and knocked on the door while he was away, and it really scared me. And I was just a kid, And how could he do that to me? I did what I used to do. Vicks plugins while reading. Let me write that down. Actually, there was two things I wanted to write down. Somebody mentioned like a video game that I should play. I forget what it was called, like Eastward. Yeah, Eastward. Write that down. Eastward and Vicks plugins. It like catches the whole house on fire. That'd be funny. I mean, it wouldn't be funny, but you know, sometimes dying can be funny if you think about it differently. You're painting your new room right now. Happy to see it live. Well, have fun. What color are you painting it? You should make it a big collage of... oh, dude, you should... remember the Teletubbies? You should just draw that, like, mountain, little rolling hills region that looks like the Shire. But it's Teletubbies. Or no, fuck Teletubbies. You should just do the Shire. That'd be sick. Back spasms hit hard tonight. Glad I've got this as a distraction. Back spasms, interesting. I'm trying to think what that would entail. Like which specific muscle group it would be hitting on. Vicks vapor pads and the humidifiers. Oh yeah, I was supposed to... I'm an idiot. I have a fucking humidifier right here, but I forgot to put the distilled water in it. What's the temp where I live? It's like... oh, it's like freezing. I did what I was used to doing and locked up the house and closed all the windows just in case. I sat in the living room with the lights on since I was scared of the dark and the TV going so I didn't feel so alone. Sleeping alone in a house when you're only 8 was really hard. Almost impossible, actually. I'm not embarrassed to admit that in those moments, all I really wanted was my mom. About an hour goes by without anything happening. It was unusual for no one to have come by in the night like usual. Wait, what? It was unusual for no one to have come by... What is this saying? It was unusual for no one to have come by in the night like usual. But it was Christmas, so maybe the night was... Who was supposed to come by? Used to... Oh yeah, I guess it doesn't matter if it's tap water or tap water or distilled with that. Mega, welcome back for almost a year. Says, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good fright. Thank you, Mega. Good to see you. 1 more month will be the anniversary. It was unusual for no one to have at least come by in the night like usual, but it was Christmas, so maybe that night would be different. Wrong. I had just started to fall asleep when I heard a knock on the front door, just behind the sofa that I was sitting on. After the knock came a loud voice saying, "Jimmy, I know you're in there. I need my money, man. We're gonna have a problem, are we?" Now the man... Oh, it's a country accent. Fuck. "Jimmy, I know you're in there. I need my money, man." Fuck, what's a country accent? I guess country accents could be anything. Yeah. Jimmy, I know you're in there. There it is. Maybe, I don't know. "Jimmy, I know you're in there. I need my money, man. We gonna have a problem?" Now, the man's thick country accent is something I'll never forget. I was too scared to say anything back, so I just sat there, as still and silent as I possibly could, and waited for the man to leave. Only the man had no intention of leaving without his money that I guess my dad owed him. When he got no answer, he only knocked louder and harder. Boom, boom, boom. "Get out here, Jimmy. I don't want to break this door down, but I will if I have to." And this is where things started to get very real for me. I could hear the seriousness of his voice and made my heart drop into my stomach. Yosemite Sam, yeah. I could hear the seriousness in his voice and it made my heart drop into my stomach. Again, the man got no answer and he kept his promise. I jumped as the sound of his boot hitting the front door filled the room. I knew I had to get out of that living room and hide as fast as I could. I ran into my dad's bedroom and climbed into the small closet and hid myself under a pile of clothes on the floor. The whole time I could hear the man trying to get into the house. Now, I say house, but it was actually a very old, very run-down trailer in a trailer park full of the grossest people you would ever meet in your life. I heard the door burst open, and the man stepped into the living room. His footsteps were loud, like he was a big man. I could feel the floor shake as he walked through the house. He kept repeating, "I'ma find you, Jimmy." I started crying by then. I couldn't help the small sobs that left my mouth. I guess the man heard it because he was at the closet door, throwing it open in no time. He snatched the clothes off of me and dragged me back into the living room by the arm. He sat me down on the sofa and asked what I was doing there, and I stupidly admitted it was my dad's place and that I was staying with him for Christmas. The man just laughed and told me my dad owed him money and that he was going to use me to get it. I was especially nervous with what he was going to do to me, considering my dad wasn't going to be home for the next few hours. The man took out a knife, and my crying continued as I begged him not to hurt me. He told me it would only hurt a little, as he proceeded to make small cuts along my arms and legs, just enough to make me bleed into the pajamas I was wearing. It hurt, but my body seemed to go numb. He stopped once the cloth was wet enough with blood to be obvious. He said he wanted my dad to know that he was serious. Next, he grabbed a small plastic bin from the other room, emptied it, and told me to get inside. I did as I was told and tucked myself into the bin as best I could before he closed the lip, trapping me in a position where I couldn't outstretch my arms or legs. I panicked, and panicked for what felt like hours. I was so sweaty that the bin was filled with condensation. I thought I was going to die in there. I kept crying for my mom to come save me, but it felt like no one ever would. Finally, after being in the bin for over an hour, my dad came home. Drunk, of course, and that's when the man got up and put the knife on of his... Jesus. That's when the man got up and put the point of his knife on the lid of the bin directly above my head. He threatened to end my life if my dad didn't give him the money. Only thing is, my dad had no money. None. So he did something I never imagined. He would stoop low enough to do... Oh, yikes. So he did something I never imagined he would stoop so low enough to do. He offered me his payment. He offered me his payment. Thankfully, the man didn't want me, and instead beat my father until he was unrecognizable and unconscious on the floor. The man left after ransacking the place, and he even left me in the bin. God must have been looking over me because my mom showed up with the police only 10 minutes after the man had left. I guess my dad's neighbors heard the noise and called the cops. The police had a file on my dad already and called my mom in case I was there. My mom opened the bin as she cried, hugging my little helpless body. My dad was taken to the hospital for his injuries that surprisingly were not life-threatening, and it turns out my dad was selling drugs and he owed the man quite a bit of money. None of my physical injuries were serious, but the mental issues that arose from that night are still debilitating. My mom got full custody of me and I haven't seen my father since. The man who did that to me still hasn't been caught, and my dad said he had no memory of who it was. He was charged with child neglect and endangerment and spent 3 years in prison. Christmas, it's a hard day to celebrate, but I try for my mom. I'm just grateful to have a parent who cares as much as she does. She never gave up, and if it weren't for her, I'm sure I would have died in that bin. Yikes. Now, whoever said having a mystery man leave you presents on your doorstep leading up to Christmas would be cute and romantic, that's not the case. It wasn't cute or romantic. Instead, it was terrifying and trauma-inducing, and it all started on December 1st. Now, for context, I'm a 20-year-old woman and I live on my own. I moved out of my abusive parents' home the second I turned 18 and I haven't looked back, so seeing a gift with no mention of who it was from on my doorstep was pretty scary in and of itself. I got home after work at around 6 p.m. and there it was, just waiting for me. It was a box wrapped neatly in Christmas wrapping paper with a big red bow on the top. On top was a sticky note that read, "To Emily, from your secret admirer." Now, it wouldn't have freaked me out so much if it had been mailed to me, but there was no shipping label or postage or anything. That only made it obvious that whoever it was from knew me and knew where I lived and decided to drop it off themselves instead of sending it in the mail. I didn't like that, and everyone who knew me also would know that I wouldn't like something that left for me. What? I didn't like that, and everyone who knew me also would know I wouldn't like that. Knew that I wouldn't like something like that left for, I see. Do I shave my armpits? Nah, dude. It's like a death sentence for fucking ingrown hairs and shit. Let that shit grow. That's what it's there for. When Joel says yikes, the shit's coming. It's coming out of my butt for sure. Suddenly that year you got Xbox instead of PlayStation doesn't sound so bad, eh? It was the worst year of my life. I didn't like that, and everyone who knew me also would know that I wouldn't like something like that left for me without letting me know first. I brought the package inside with every intention of just throwing it in the garbage, but then I heard this strange noise. It sounded like a cat meowing. Not a full-grown cat, though. You know how a kitten just sounds different? Well, it was definitely a kitten. I ripped open the paper as fast as I could and cut open the fully sealed box, and inside, there he was, the cutest little kitten I'd ever seen. But all I could feel was anger, and worry, and confusion. Anger because who would do that to a poor innocent kitten, and worry because I didn't know how long the kitten had been there or if it was healthy to begin with. Confused, I rushed it to the emergency vet and got all the help it needed. I was sent home with oral antibiotics to give him every night, and that was it. I knew I'd be keeping him, and on the car ride home, I settled on the name Boxy. I parked my car in the driveway and walked to my door. I stopped in my tracks when I saw a piece of paper taped to the front door that read, "I hope you like the kitten, my love. Someday, he will be our kitten." Ew. That is totally creepy. I took a picture of the note and took it down, and the first thing I did when I got inside was make sure all my doors and windows were locked. Thankfully, they already were, but I had to make sure. The next morning went by the same as always, only now, I guess I had a kitten. I woke up an hour early to get some things from the store for Boxy, all the necessities, and then I was off to work. It was a fairly good day at work. I'd almost forgotten the previous day's events. But that wouldn't last long. I sighed when I walked up my front steps and saw yet another present waiting for me. The sticky note this time said, "Get ready. There will be one every day till Christmas." Again, I took a picture before touching it and then brought it inside. I wasn't going to just throw it away in case another living creature was inside. Clearly this person was capable of anything. But no animal. Instead, it was some lingerie with a note that read, "I can't wait to see you in this." Ugh, gross. I took pictures of the contents inside the box and shoved it into the back of one of my closets just in case I needed proof. Proof of what I am not really sure, but whoops, that sounded weird. Proof of what? I didn't know. But I watched a lot of true crime stuff and I couldn't be too sure. The next day rolled around, only this time I wasn't shocked to find a new present on my doorstep. I didn't like that someone was leaving these gifts for me, but I also knew going to the police would probably end up doing nothing. What was I going to tell them? Help, someone's leaving me Christmas presents on my doorstep? They'd probably laugh me out of the building. And instead, I thought I'd do some investigating of my own. I bought a Ring doorbell. I was intent on finding out who this person was and why they were leaving me gifts. The Ring doorbell was installed the next morning before the third package arrived. Only, what I caught on camera was a man dressed in all black, wearing a mask to cover his face. He even waved at the camera, saying nothing. He set the package on the ground and left. When I got home, I took the package inside and opened it. This time, the present wasn't so innocent. It was a picture of me sitting in my living room watching TV. It had obviously been taken outside the window, and it was framed. You could see his reflection in the window in the picture, and the fear that I felt seeing that was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. The note this time read, "Someday soon I'll be in the picture, sitting next to you, not watching you from outside." All right. I realized that it was time to call the police. And I did, and they had a detective come by. They were worried about the possibility of me being stalked, but it was hard for them to do anything about it without knowing who this guy actually was. They told me to call them whenever I got a new package and to wait for an officer before I opened it. The next 2 weeks went by without a single gift or note, and I was relieved, thinking that this nightmare was finally over. But that was hopeful thinking. Stinking. This is creepy. This is creepy. Yeah, that was the Pradeep origin story. Yeah, exactly. That's what you guys need to do for me. Honestly, if someone did force a kitten upon me, I would make it work. I feel like that's how life works a lot of the times. You just have shit forced upon you and you just deal with it. Or you just overcome. Make the best out of it. And you get a free kitten. Kitten! Where is he, by the way? He has abandoned me. Oh, no, that's funny. I said kitten and he came down. That's so cute. Hi, buddy. He's doing his little walk. He's doing his little smush into my leg. And now he's looping back around. His tail is doing one of those flicker movements like he's spreading a pheromone from his asshole. And now he's jumping on the chair. Hell yeah, brother. Good boy. Good boy. What story are we on? This is story 5, I think. When life gives you kittens, make kittenade. All right. Missed the last stream when I went to the Russian sex bot's base for a preemptive strike. Hopefully your stream will be free from now. Will from now on be uninterrupted. Well, thank you, Silent Sniper. I appreciate you. You're doing the Lord's work. Where's Jacob? Are you guys working together? Or is this a solo mission? His name is Robert Paulson. The next 2 weeks went by without a single gift or note, and I was relieved, thinking this nightmare was finally over. It was hopeful thinking, though. December 18th, and the next day, I got a present left on my porch. I called the sheriff's office, and they had an officer over only 30 minutes later. He took pictures of everything and watched as I opened the box. Inside was only a note, and it said, "You got the police involved? Why? I'd never hurt you. Big mistake, Emily." The officer took it in as evidence, and I was left home alone to be paranoid. I kept all my curtains shut from then on. I constantly felt like someone was watching me. The next day, I got gifts every day, and this time it was just normal stuff, like a teddy bear, a sweater, a purse, things like that. Then Christmas rolled around, and I was faced with the most disturbing present of them all. I can't even call it a present because of how gross and insane it was. I called the officer over like I had many times before, only this time we realized that there was a red substance leaking from inside the box. The officer asked me to open it on the porch instead of bringing it inside, and he filmed it instead of taking pictures. The whole time I was praying it wasn't blood. But of course it was, though. And inside the box was a severed piece of a man's body that no man would ever want to lose. I don't want to say exactly what it was, but you can... What the fuck, really? A penis? Is he literally sent a penis? Dude, I was gonna joke. I was gonna interrupt the story and joke that it was foreskin, right? As anyone would. But there's no fucking... Whose fucking wiener is this? This dick in the box. What the fuck's going on? It's my dick in a box? A literal dick in a box. What the fuck? Yeah, at least it wasn't a cat. Just a stray worm. And inside the box was a severed piece of a man's body that no man would ever want to lose. I don't want to say exactly what it was, but you can assume. I screamed, and I began to cry as the officer called for backup. The detective that came by called... The detective that came by called in an alert to all local hospitals to let them know if anyone came in with that type of injury they were looking for. What is this saying? The detective that came by called in an alert to all local hospitals to let them know that if anyone came in with that type of injury they were looking for. Let them know if anyone came in with the type of... Oh, okay. I don't know why I like seeing words. The detective that came by called in an alert to all local hospitals to let them know if anyone came in with the type of injury they were looking for, because that would have to be that guy. There was also a note in the box that said, "It belonged to you anyways, only now it's yours." And just like they predicted, a man with a self-inflicted injury just like the one described to the hospital staff came in begging for medical attention. He was arrested and wheeled off for surgery. And when he woke up the next day, he told the detectives that he never meant to scare me and that it was a gesture of his undying love. He was charged but was considered unfit for trial for reasons of insanity, obviously, I guess. But I guess he really didn't know what he was doing wrong. What the fuck? But I guess he really didn't know what he was doing was wrong. He admitted that he had chosen me at random when he saw me walk out of my office building and just thought, please stop ripping up shit. He comes in, he doesn't get attention. He admitted that he had chosen me at random when he saw me walk out of my office building and just thought that I was pretty. It was by far the worst Christmas of my life, but the best Christmas gift was knowing that he'd be put away in a mental institution for at least the next 6 years. He needed help, and I needed to know that he'd leave me alone. God, dude. Yeah. Nothing says undying love. Throw the cat at the mic. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of counterintuitive to your end game. Chop your wiener off. But hey, to each his own. I'd like to only hear Pradeep for the rest of the stream. I guess Christmas shopping alone in a packed mall isn't the smartest idea in the world, but it had to be done. 3 days before Christmas, and I got my family nothing. I couldn't just not get anyone anything. I asked some of my friends to come with me, but they all had other plans. So it was now or never in my mind. The days started very normal. I got to the mall at around 10 a.m. when they opened, and it was busier than I'd ever seen it. It makes you miss the basically deserted mall in the summer months. I went to a few stores and bought some cute stuff for my mom and got a little hungry, so I decided to stop at the food court. I got myself some cheap Chinese food and sat at a table by myself. Most of the tables were already full, but I managed to find a place. And that's when a man who looked about twice my age sat across from me. I looked at him confused, and he seemed to catch on. He looked at me and just said, "Sorry, there's no other place to sit. I was uncomfortable as..." Oh, wait. Okay. Sorry, there's no other place to sit. I was uncomfortable, as any 18-year-old girl would be sitting across from an older man alone. I started to grab my purse to get up and walk away, but he stopped me and said I didn't have to leave. I asked him to take his hand off my bag and that I was going. I walked 2 steps away from the guy and felt goosebumps rise on the back of my neck when he said, "You don't want to do that, Mallory." I turned around to look at him. I stared at his face, not knowing what to say. He motioned for me to sit back down, and against my better judgment, I did. I asked how he knew my name, and his response was calm and concise as he told me he knew everything about me. And it felt like time slowed down, like all the shoppers around us were suddenly going in slow motion. He smirked and began telling me personal things about myself. He knew my birthday, my parents' names, what I got for Christmas the year before, my pets' names, and he even knew the brand of birth control I was on. I wanted to vomit. I kept asking him who he was and how he knew all of this, but he wouldn't tell me. And we sat there for 5 minutes as I begged to know who he was and why he was doing this to me, but he wouldn't answer. His stares became more and more soul-intruding with each passing second. And finally, I came back to my senses and quickly stood up to walk away. He yelled after me, "You're going to regret this. For the rest of your life. If you knew what was good for you, you'd turn around and come back." His voice faded the further I got away from him. I ran through the parking lot to my car, keys already in hand. I ripped open the door as fast as I could and got in. Only when I put the keys in the ignition, it wouldn't start. It didn't even make that noise that cars make when they're trying to turn over. It just did nothing. And that was the final straw. I called my dad and told him everything. I wasn't going to be one of those girls in the movies that keeps it a secret and gets kidnapped in the end. That wasn't happening. My dad started freaking out and told me to lock the doors and wait in the car until we got there. He didn't want me walking back into the mall in case the guy was waiting to snatch me as I walked from my car into the building. The doors were already locked, though. I made sure of that the second I got in the car. He told me to call the police while I waited for him, but I guess living in the big city does have its downsides. The dispatcher told me I wasn't a high priority and she didn't have an officer to send to me. The earliest they could have a unit there was over an hour. My dad lived 30 minutes away. Those 30 minutes would prove to be the most frightening of my life. My dad lost service after I called him back. The second the call dropped, I started to panic. I was looking in every direction, out every window, praying the man from the mall wouldn't show up. But of course he did. I watched as he made his way out of the mall. He walked slowly toward my car. There was a smirk on his face. My nausea came back with a vengeance. I crawled into the back seat and sat in the middle to give myself a better 360-degree view outside the car. The man was standing just outside the door when he began telling me how he has loved me since I was, as he called it, just a girl. He saw me playing soccer at the park with my friends and said that he knew that he had to have me. He also told me that he tried to take me. What the fuck? Bunny loves pizza with the five. Says finally on winter break, I can stay for the entire live. Hell to the yes. Let's freaking go. Winter break is the best, to be honest with you. Sometimes winter break is better than summer break, I feel like. What's up, Lila? You're making a huge hot chocolate right now, and I love it. There better be milk involved. Milkies. He also told me that he tried to take me many times before, but I was always with other people, never alone, and it was too risky. He said he liked me more when I was younger, but he still wanted me now. He wanted me no matter what. He said he was going to take me and that we'd run away together and we'd get married, and even said that he couldn't wait to see me carry his children. I was bawling by this point. I just wanted this nightmare to be over. And then he pulls out a knife. I mentally laughed because I wondered what his plan was to do with the knife. He couldn't get into the car. He wrapped his fist with some sort of cloth and began relentlessly punching the window, trying to break the glass. But thank God it wouldn't budge. He became increasingly frustrated every time he failed to break the window, but weirdly, he never gave up. You could see the blood soaking the cloth, getting redder and redder every time after each blow. I was screaming, but no one seemed to care. There were actually people walking by, seeing what was happening, and they did nothing in broad daylight, and my faith in humanity was almost crushed that day. When he finally realized he wasn't going to be able to break the glass, he started just asking me to get out of the car. He kept just telling me that he loved me, and that he wouldn't hurt me, and that I should just get out and live the life we were meant to live together. It was a nightmare. Of course, I wasn't going to open the door and leave with him. I wondered if he was actually delusional enough to think I would. The minutes went by slowly. I began to wonder if my dad was ever coming. If anyone was going to save me from that man who had clearly been stalking me for what seemed to be years. And my mind began to race. I started thinking about what I would do if he was able to gain access into the car. My dad always told me that if I was ever in a public place and was threatened with a gun or a knife to go with someone, that you're more likely to live if you scream and run than if you get in the car with a person threatening your life. And so that was my plan. If he got into the car, I'd run and scream because my life depended on it. The man stopped talking and instead just walked around. Hey, Devoured Eagle with 35 MX buckaroonies says, Merry Christmas to Joel and all the cult. Thank you, Eagle. Appreciate you. Hope you have an awesome Christmas as well. Yeah, you think she would start honking the horn. That would make some sense. The man stopped talking and instead just walked around my car over and over again. I could tell what he was thinking. I just didn't know what about. Then he just started screaming and stabbing the sides of my car. He kept saying I ruined his life by forcing his obsession with me, that it was my fault that he spent multiple years of his life planning a new life with me, and he kept screaming that I have to have you, I have to have you. I started to yell at him to just leave me alone, when suddenly, a man tackled him to the ground. I scooted to the side of the car and watched out of the window as my dad began to beat the life out of this man. Well, he wasn't actually dead, but from what I could tell, he was close to it. My father called the police, and I guess they considered the situation high priority then because the cop was there in less than 5 minutes. The man was arrested and, like always, my father is a hero. The man was charged with attempted kidnapping, felony arrest, and stalking. They even searched his apartment and found whole file cabinets dedicated to every aspect of my life, from my interests to medical records, and we still have no idea how he got those. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison with the possibility of parole. I thought he deserved a longer sentence, but I suppose it is what it is. It's been 4 years since then, and he's still locked away. The police failed me when I needed them most, but my dad, I know he's always there for me, and I'm eternally grateful for what he did for me that day. Happy Friday and holidays in advance. Thanks, Catherine. Good to see you. How do they not know where he got all the medical records? I came in 35th place last week in NHL's 23's weekly championship. It's global and cross-platform as I went 40-0-0, 40 games played, 40 wins. Was insane. That's dope. Was it just like an online tournament or something like that? Like on Xbox or something? I never played any of the NHL games, though I do like the idea of hockey. Hockey? I like playing hockey. It's still Thursday here watching Elf while wrapping gifts for an extended fam and seeing tomorrow. Oh, that's awesome. That's always a nice thing to look forward to. Miss Alexa, hello, hello. What's poppin'? Take a mandatory rip. I wouldn't mind one. Be kind of nice. It's cross-platform though, so all consoles share a leaderboard. Oh, that's kind of dope. I guess that would make sense. It's pretty sweet that games are doing a lot more cross-platform stuff. How many more stories left? We got 2 more. El Pocho Boy with the 10 says, can you say, Alex, go to sleep. Do it now. What video games are you playing right now? Well, I started playing a couple days ago with Valheim. It's like Viking Minecraft pretty much. You're just in this like open world. It's pretty cool to look at. It's like a voxel graphics, and it's like this huge massive randomly generated world, and you just basically it's like Minecraft. You just mine resources and shit to like build different stuff. And then there's different things throughout the world, like different, not necessarily events, but there are like bosses that you have to come across or figure out how to get to, that then you can unlock, you know, more building elements and abilities to like mine stuff that, or not just mine stuff, but you know, or at least the first boss that we fought was like a huge deer god, and we had to kill a bunch of deer in this one area and then like sacrifice them on something. And then it activated the deer god, and he was a huge like Dark Souls god thing. And then after that, you unlock like an antler pickaxe, so you can, you know, mine stone and shit. It's been cool. I made a house. It's got a deck. Puff Puff passing to me. Thank you, thank you. Puff Puff pass. Sounds like something I'd play 10 hours ago and... Wow. Yeah, I heard that World of Warcraft had a new expansion, the dragon thing or whatever. Have you played High on Life? I haven't, but I want to. I saw that the guys from Red Letter Media have like an entire... Like they sit there and comment on a movie the whole time, and then they It's like a movie theater appears in this one area like an Easter egg, and you go inside the movie theater and can sit and watch the movie as they just like comment on it, kind of like that old show. I forget what it was called, like Mystery Movie Theater 3000 or something. Cataclysm? No, Cataclysm was a long time ago. This actually, I think all the dragons were supposed to die in Cataclysm, but this one's like all the dragons are back, and then you got cool mounts, and there's a bunch of bullshit with dragons or some shit. Even playing Stalker. Okay, nice. Yeah, my friend was playing that the other day. I heard they're making another one. Mystery Science Theater. There you go. Mists of Pandaria. That was also a long time ago, my friend. I mean, no, it's new. Let me look it up. New World of Warcraft expansion. Dragonflight, yeah. So Dragonflight, yeah, just recently came out or whatever. I don't play World of Warcraft, but those ones are from a long time ago. You're finally deleting Candy Crush from your iPad? There you go. Break the cycle, Terry. Break the cycle. Free yourself. Set your eyes on vast and expansive worlds around you. Use your energy for good. I was living in a small one-bedroom apartment at 19 years old. I worked at a realtor's office and made friends with a couple of my coworkers. They invited me to come with them to their church since they were having a Christmas event that week before Christmas and said it was going to be fun, so I should join them. This was in the 80s in Los Angeles, so we had no cell phones or really anything like that at the time. I gave them my address, and they told me that when they'd be coming over and we left it at that. Now, the day came for them to come over to pick me up, and I got in their car, and we headed to their church. The conversation was very normal. You know, stuff like favorite movies and the music we all liked. And they were really into religious music, which I thought was a little odd for a couple in their mid-20s, but I tried not to judge, so I didn't comment on it. Now, we got to their church, and the vibe just completely changed. The best word I can describe the church as would be kind of culty. They were all very involved with the church. Pretty much every member volunteered their free time toward helping with the church in every aspect they possibly could. They all put a lot of money in their congregation, and throughout the service, a hat was passed around for donations, and when it got to me, I didn't see singles, fives, or even tens. It was mainly 20s and 50s and even $100 bills. It's not even like the building we were in was nice. It really wasn't. It was dirty, and the furniture was very obviously old and falling apart. Everyone dressed nicely, but the one thing I thought the whole time was, why with all the money they got, were they not renovating the place or investing in nicer furniture? It was all very sketchy. Everyone at the service introduced themselves to me, which wasn't terribly comfortable, but... What? You love candy? Candy! Yeah! You were born in the 80s in Los Angeles? Hell yeah, let's go. Maybe this was your church. You know a guy that plays Assassin's Creed, no clue if it's good. Well, maybe you should try to play a video game, Michelle. Give it a whirl. A whole new world of entertainment for you at your fingertips. Everyone at the service introduced themselves to me, which wasn't terribly comfortable, but I put up with it. They seemed nice enough. They kept asking me questions like, "So, we'll be seeing you from now on, right?" Implying that I'd be coming back, which I had already decided was absolutely not going to happen. I wanted out of that place the second I stepped foot inside. I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to offend anyone by what I'm saying. I am Christian myself, it's just these people were on a whole other level that I was not planning to go to with my faith. I've always been one who feels like your relationship with God is no one's business but your own. And these people were making me feel like they wanted to know everything about how I felt with my faith, and I just really didn't feel comfortable going into it. After the service had ended, I caught back up with my friends from work since I thought that we were all ready to go. Well, no. Apparently that wasn't going to be a possibility for hours. You see, my coworkers, like everyone else at the church, volunteered their time as much as they could. And because they both had the day off, they were going to spend that day, the whole day, at the church, and because they were my ride and we were an hour from my apartment, I had to stay with them. We joined in on a Bible study session where the most radical, outlandish views were expressed and shared. I myself was cringing at 99% of what these people were saying. I had no idea people with those thoughts still even existed, let alone openly talked about them with 50 other people in the room. They kept asking me my thoughts, and I kept declining to talk, saying that I was shy rather than just join. If I was going to talk, I had two choices. I could either tell the truth that I thought that they were all insane, or I could pretend to agree. Neither seemed smart, so I just kept my mouth shut completely. The whole second day was the most awkward encounter of my life, but the night would be one of the scariest. Finally, at around 7 p.m., I was home. My apartment might have been small, but wow, was I glad to be back. Now let me kind of explain the layout so you better understand. The tips of my fingertips. You're in Kentucky, not snowing just yet? Yeah, how big is this storm? What the hell? It's like a storm hurricane. A sturricane. Or no, a snow hurricane. A snurricane. A mixed snurry. Now let me kind of explain the layout so you better understand. Now let me explain the layout so you'll better understand what I'm about to tell you. My apartment had a small garage, but it was not attached, meaning it was directly under my apartment, but you couldn't access my apartment through the garage. I hope that makes sense. The stairs leading up toward my front door passed right by my bedroom window. So when you were going up the stairs, my bedroom window would be like the shoulder height. What the fuck? I can't. So when you were going up the stairs, my bedroom window would be like shoulder height. Okay, now that you have that in mind, I can tell you what happened. I was dropped off at around 7 p.m., and I was tired, but not exhausted. I got into my pajamas and threw myself under a pile of pillows on the sofa in the tiny but cute living room I tried to make as cozy as possible. I turned on the TV and sat there peacefully for the next hour or so before I heard the sound of a car pull up outside the apartment. No big deal. A lot of people live there, so I moved on and continued watching whatever show was on. I tried my best to put the thought out of my head, but I realized that I never heard a door close. The walls of my apartment were really thin, so I always heard my neighbors' front doors close whenever they were coming or going. This time, though, there was no noise from a door shutting. Odd. I got up and slowly and quietly made my way into my bedroom. The lights in the apartment were all off, and I was intent on keeping it that way. I peeked out the window and over the stairs and was confused when I saw my coworker's car in the alleyway. They dropped me off over an hour before then, and I watched them drive away. The weirdest part was they weren't even in the car. I closed the gape. It's huge. The radar looks like a hurricane with snow. Is it like a world record or anything like that? Why is my voice comforting though? I don't know. I guess they just made me that way. You'll need to start with Donkey Kong or anything Mario related. Oh yeah, there you go. You could get a Switch. Switches have a lot of like pretty straightforward kind of video game experiences. And I'm sure if you have any family, they could teach you how to play it and whatnot. Nintendo games are like some of the best games, honestly. Kitty, what are you doing? Are you bad? Are you bad? I closed the gap in the blinds that I've made with my... You grew up in Pennsylvania, like 20 minutes from Philly. Well, technically I was in New Jersey for part of those years, but still 20 minutes from Philly more nonetheless. Nice. Pennsylvania, baby. The perfect storm is coming. Oh my god. I closed the gap in the blinds that I've made my... What am I saying that I've made? Who's hotter, Mario or Luigi? I guess Luigi, maybe. He's kind of more dapper, I suppose, or more model-esque because he's taller. I closed the gap in the blinds that I had made with my fingers and tiptoed back into the living room. I turned off the TV and sat there in the dark, listening and thinking of what they could possibly be doing back there. I heard the sound of their feet on the metal stairs as they made their way toward my doorstep. I was half expecting a knock, but definitely not expecting what happened next. My eyes went wide as I watched the doorknob jiggle as they tried opening the door from the outside, lightly at first, but the jiggling became more forceful as they were obviously trying to get inside. Now I know you may ask... Now I know you may be asking why I didn't just call the police on my landline, but to be completely honest, it didn't even come to my mind. I was 19 years old, living on my own for the first time, and I figured if I left it alone, they would just go away. After they realized that they weren't going to get in through the front door, they tried my bedroom window. I could hear them trying to push it. Luckily, I have never been one of those people who doesn't lock their doors and windows. I'm really paranoid about that stuff, and that night, it paid off. Once it was obvious that they weren't going to be able to get into my apartment on their own, they reverted to just knocking and calling out my name. They kept asking me to open the door, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want them knowing that I was even there. It took another hour of them sitting on my doorstep for them to finally get in their car and just drive off. The next day at work, they just acted like nothing had happened. I didn't want to mention it because I didn't want them knowing that I was in my apartment when they were trying to get in, and they never mentioned it. In fact, they even had the audacity to ask me to come back to church with them. I declined, of course, but they just wouldn't take no for an answer. They would come to my apartment and pick me up even when I had declined the invitation, and they even came by on Christmas Day. Of all days you'd think they'd be at church. Thankfully, after a few times of me not answering the door over multiple weeks, they stopped coming by. I had no idea what their intentions were with me that night, but boy am I glad that I never had to find out. Yabba dabba doo. And the freezer calling me. Maria and Louise. Oh, that'd be fun. A girl version of Mario. Honestly, I really like Mario games. I think they're some of the best ones. Like Mario Galaxy 2. I didn't play the first one, but I played 2 because my nephew had it on his Wii. Fucking love that game, dude. That was so much fun. And then I got Mario on the Switch, I do believe. It was Mario Taint Tickler. No, I forget what it was called, but it was a Mario game. And it was good for sure, but it was like, I expected there to be like challenge levels and stuff like that, but there really weren't, you know? It was like the game itself was just kind of easy. Which is interesting, because it almost seems like Mario games are progressively getting easier. Like, if you go backwards in time, I don't even think I've ever beat Mario, like Super Mario Brothers 2, 3, Super Mario World, all that shit. I don't think I ever beat those games, because they were hard when I was younger. But then you get to Mario 64, and that was like still hard, but it was definitely doable. And then I just feel like Mario has gotten progressively more beatable. rumor that Mario skin is coming to Fortnite. That's like the least exciting news ever. And not against you, I'm just like, I don't know, I think Fortnite's dumb. And like whenever there's a new skin in Fortnite or whatever, it's just like whatever, man. It's just all that means is like more microtransactions for them. Lord help Yoshi in that version. Oh yeah, Yoshi's Island. That shit was sick. And then I guess it was it called Yoshi's Island? I don't know, the side-scrolling one where it's like you have Baby Mario and Yoshi. That shit was awesome. And it's kind of weird, like baby. I'm surprised, like in like Super Smash Brothers and stuff, that like Baby Mario wasn't utilized more in the concept of being on the back of Yoshi. You think he would be, because like there's a whole ass game of that, you know, and that's kind of like where Yoshi sort of started. Do you play Final Fantasy games? You know, I bought Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I really wanted to play through it, and I had a friend who was obsessed with that stuff. But I just never, I don't know, I never have like time to go to my PlayStation and just turn it on anymore. You know, I'm like at my computer a lot or doing something else. And I want to. I really would like to play through Final Fantasy VII because I heard the story was sweet and the graphics and gameplay look pretty cool. Yeah, Baby Mario was Super Mario World 2. Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, dude, that shit was fucking awesome. That was a great game. Like, that was, like, for me, the pinnacle of, like, Super Nintendo. Like, those types of games. Now, granted, I guess Donkey Kong Country 3 was sort of the transitionary period between console to N64 or whatever. And that was still a good game. But I don't know, I really like that era of those side-scrolling games where they were like at their peak, you know, prior to going to like three-dimensional games, because three-dimensional games obviously took games in a great direction, but I feel like it was sort of like, you know, the early stages of them. So you look back on them, you're like, Jesus Christ, this looks a little rough. Rough? Looks a little rough. Alright, last story, my friends. We hath arrived. We've been going for a solid 2 hours or so far. Mario 64 was also good, but the controls nowadays feel so janky. On the old one, or... Yeah. I remember that was a huge jump, though, just like being able to like 360 degree control your character and stuff. And it honestly weirds me out how like there's a lot of like, there's not just like more in the modern era like Mario clones, because you get some like platforming puzzle type games, but you don't get that many, and you don't get that many that just like emulate the fun of a Mario game. And maybe the fun of a Mario game, aside from the controls, is just like, at least nowadays, is the constant changing of shit. You know what I mean? Like you just constantly have a new like gimmicky power to fuck with, which I think is really sweet, you know, because it really does keep your attention. Just started my overnight tour. Looking forward to the story. An overnight tour? What does that mean? Like a shift? Or like, are you touring a scary motel that's abandoned? You're keeping tight streams times. I know, I feel like honestly sometimes I'm just able to bang out stories, like they're just tonight's stories where I feel like they flowed a lot easier. I don't know if it's, I'm not sure what it is sometimes. Paper Mario, yeah, Paper Mario was good. I didn't play the 1,000-Year Door or whatever it was called, but the original was great. I remember, I think they had there was just something peaceful about like that turn-based Mario stuff. And I remember it was, I don't know if it was the first RPG, turn-based RPG, where you like actually press a button to like increase the value of your attack. But I really like that with like turn-based RPGs, and I wish more games would do that. I guess they did that with, fuck, what was that game? Undertale. I think Undertale had kind of interesting mini games during the combat. Never did finish that one either. Did you ever play Super Mario RPG on SNES? I saw it, but I was like young when it came out, and I don't know, it was always like intimidating. Do you ever like, you see those games and you like, because I feel like you have a cousin who has a bunch of those games, and you're just like digging through their like big barrel of fucking cartridges, and you put that one in, and for whatever reason it just like starts you in the middle of a mission. You have no idea what you're doing, and you fuck around with the controls, but you realize it's story driven. Then you also remember like, oh, that's right, I can't read. Because honestly, I couldn't read till like way later. I know that sounds weird since it's my job now, but when I was younger, I did not know how to read till I was like 9. I know that sounds fucking terrible. I just did not know how to read. I was so bad, and nobody ever like got mad at me for not knowing how to do it. I mean, there was a time when it eventually, like, my teachers were like, "What the fuck? Teach this guy how to do this." And then it, eventually clicked, but it was just like, I think it was, when you're younger, there's certain things that you were just like afraid of. You know what I mean? And I remember I was always jealous because I remember like ever since I was like, at daycare and shit with some like best friends and stuff. Am I dyslexic? I don't think so. I mean, I have moments where I like meld words together, but it's only happens when I'm reading out loud, and it's like, I'm just looking at chat at the same time. Yeah, I still can't read, I'll be honest, yeah. I used to not be able to say my R's. I remember that. There was a kid in my class, they would go do special stuff, and we were all like in the same classes and stuff, and I was always confused. I'm like, hey, how come they get to go do something? Like, well, he has a speech impediment, so he has to go learn how to say R's. And I just remember being perplexed, like, how the fuck do you not know how to say an R? Yo, what the fuck's wrong with you? And, as a little kid, I didn't, I was just joking, but it was always confusing. America. I'm from America. I couldn't read until I started playing one. Yeah, honestly, like Pokemon. When I started playing Pokemon, I used to like have to go up to my mom and ask her like, "What the fuck does this say?" And she's like, "Charizard." Like, oh, sick. But honestly, like Pokemon did really help because it's and I like some people complain about Pokemon games not having voice acting and shit, which I think it would be cool if it did. But I think since Pokemon is like a generational thing, I almost feel like it's like a good way for kids to just sort of like have an interest in something and like learn how to read like basic dialogue and text and stuff like that. Your son went to therapy today. He can't say R's because he has a flat palate. Oh, it's it's whatever. I'm sure he'll get better at it eventually here. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was just like, I was honestly jealous that they got to go to like special training class. I'm like, are they learning like a dead language? Are they gonna come out of there speaking to like a demon or something? I wanna fucking go. Moon buggy. Alright, friends, last story of the evening. Clown scum, what's going on? Boys take a little while to read. Yeah, my brain definitely took longer than most. So this was the first time I was cooking Christmas dinner for the family. My mom usually did it, and if it wasn't her who cooked, my sister would take on the responsibility. But I really wanted to give it a try and host Christmas myself. My mom didn't like the idea because I lived alone in a relatively small house that she wasn't sure would fit everyone, but I insisted. I spent days decorating the place and collecting recipes for the perfect dinner. I wanted my mom to be proud of me, for once. And ever since I moved far away from her, she thinks I ruined my life or something. The night before Christmas, I prepped the food and decided to cook a few things so they'd be ready the next day to just pop in the oven. I was putting the macaroni into the oven when I lost my footing and did what everyone is scared of doing. I fell face first into the oven and screamed as my face sizzled against the metal rack. It took every bit of strength to pull myself out of there, but in the process, I burned the palms of my hands so badly the skin that used to be there had completely come off. I was screaming and moaning from the pain, and then the worst thing that could have happened in that moment happened. The power went out. That may not seem like a big deal to most people, but for someone who lives miles from the next house and has no cell service sometimes, it was a huge deal. I wanted to cry, but I had to try my best to hold it together. I had two choices. I could go outside and try to drive through the deep snow and risk getting stuck, or I could wait for my family to find me. The more I thought about waiting, the more painful the burns got, and the more I realized waiting actually wasn't going to be an option. I wrapped my hands in the cleanest towels I could find, and let me tell you, that was the most painful experience of my life. I applied some sterile gauze that I had over the wounds on my face and got clean clothes on before grabbing my jacket and keys and heading outside. I turned on the car and the hot air began to blast in my face, creating the most horrible burning sensation on the open skin still peeking through the bandages. I shut it off and rolled down the windows. The cold air was the only thing that gave me at least some relief. My car struggled to back up through the snow so I could turn around and begin the drive to the hospital 30 minutes away. I couldn't stomach the pain of placing my raw hands on the steering wheel, so I used the tops of my thighs to steer as best I could. My body was running on pure adrenaline because even though the pain was extremely intense, I also knew that there was no way all the pain I was supposed to be feeling after My body was running on pure adrenaline because even though the pain was extremely intense, I also knew that there was no way that all the pain I was supposed to be feeling after would... Wait, what? I also knew there was no... What? I also knew there was no that... Oh. I also knew there was no that was... What? I also knew there was no that was all the pain I was... Someone help me with this one. My body was running on pure adrenaline because even though the pain was extremely intense, I also knew there was... Oh. I think they meant that was not... Maybe like that was not... What? I also knew that was not all the pain I was supposed to be feeling after what happened. Thwartle. I think they're saying that they're still going to be feeling more pain or something. I don't know. My body was running on pure adrenaline because even though the pain was extremely intense, I also knew that that was not all the pain that I was supposed to be feeling after what happened. My car slid down the driveway as it tried its hardest to get through the snow, but there was no use. I slid off to the side of the road, and that's where it would stay until someone could tow me out. I was stuck. I started screaming again. And not just from pain, but from pure desperation and frustration. I just needed help. I needed someone to help me. Again, I couldn't wait in the car, and I knew that there was a house about a quarter of a mile down the road, so I got out of the car and began to trudge through the snow as quickly as I could. I started to lose steam only feet from the door, but fell close enough to it to knock. A little girl, around 10 years old, answered the door, and instead of calling for her parents, she just screamed and slammed the door in my face. I remember tears falling from my eyes as the hope of getting help dwindled. Thankfully, only about 30 seconds later, a man who I'm assuming was her father came to the door. He asked what was wrong, but before I could get any words out, my vision got blurry and I passed out. I guess it was all too much for my body to handle any longer. I woke up in the hospital, confused and covered in bandages. My mom was sitting next to my hospital bed and didn't even notice that I had woken up. I tried to speak, but Only a slight moan came from my lips. It was enough to get my mom's attention, though. She called the nurses and then told me that I had been in a medically induced coma for 3 weeks and that the burns to my face, hands, and arms and chest were so extensive, keeping me awake, even with pain medication, would effectively be torture. She told me the only reason I was alive was because I had decided not to wait. The doctors said I would have had a heart attack from all the stress the injuries put on my body if I had decided to wait for my family to find me the next day, that is. He said I was one of the luckiest people he'd ever treated. The man whose doorstep I had stumbled on had immediately called the police. Only he was amazing enough to know the ambulance would take a while to get all the way out there, so he picked me up, put me in his truck, and drove me to the nearest hospital himself. Not waiting contributed to saving my life, sure, but that man is the real hero. He saved my life, and I couldn't have been more grateful. He even came to visit me throughout the stay in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 5 months, and the recovery process never got any easier. Being a burn victim has come... Fucking hell. Lynn, welcome back for 4 months. Says, love these spooky stories. Can't wait for the boner content. Happy holidays, Jolie Polly. You want a jelly bean? Here, I got you a jelly bean. Thank you, thank you. That's good right there. Thank you, Lynn. Being a burn victim's Being a burn victim comes with some very serious setbacks, but there was never a day I'm not happy to be alive. I'm just glad my family never had to tell anyone I'm just glad my family never had to tell anyone macaroni and cheese almost killed me. On a more serious note, be careful when you're putting something in the oven. If you're a clumsy person like me, maybe make sure there's someone around to help if you need it. A rectal reveal? Is that what you want for bonus content? I'm sure it's out there somewhere, floating around in the ether. Pornhub, Xtube, Simpson stuff, XXN, Hamster, Family Grown. We know these better names better than we know our own grandmas. We don't even look at porn on our phone anymore, or on our computer anymore. We look at it on our phone? It's just not right. Alright, let me read this outro. You lost the footage, damn. Miranda, what's going on? Joel Hub, yeah. Fuck OnlyFans, bro. I'm sick of them taking my money like a bunch of disrespectful pimps. I'm gonna do my own thing. Merry Quiz Moist. Alright, friends, somebody think of something quickly on what to say at the end. Maybe I should promo the live streams. Yeah, maybe I should include that in the live stream. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click the notification. I've always kind of wanted to like fix up my outro because I feel like it's a little messy. Do you think my outro is a little bit like too wordy a little bit? Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. It looks stupid. I don't even know. Let's see. Click the notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos. Let me write that in. New videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. EST. Eastern. Let me just say EST. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let'sReadOfficial, and maybe even hear your story featured in the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations, bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks offered for the channel. And check out there's just so many fucking words. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories in big compilations to save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. And join a live stream. And you know what? I can throw that randomly into the... Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click the link to be alerted of the future news. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. and live streams. Super fun, guys. They're super fucking fun. Super fun. We're having a super fun live stream, and super fun live streams on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursday nights. I don't know if that's just like too much information. It's like confuses people or something like that. And remember, not to gift a dick in a box. Galactic bitch with the 5s says happy holidays, everyone. Stay safe. I wish all of you the most joyful festivities. Thank you. Thank you, Galactic. All right. And boing, boing. All right. Yeah, we'll just do that. All right, somebody think of a good outro. Here we go. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that fuck. Already fucking up. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. EST, and there are super fun live streams every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let'sReadOfficial, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations and bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks offered for the channel. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories in big compilations and save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. All links in the description below. Thanks so much, friends, and I'll see you again soon. Mayonnaise is an instrument. Santa put his cock in my sock. Oh my god, did he? That's awesome. Christmas tree in the woods with a gunshot. Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. David. With a 1. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. If you get a penis for Christmas, call for backup. Yeah, we got a 42069 and active right now. Come in. We need backup. Roger. Roger that. There's a penis in the box. Send all officers. Open fire. Pradeep is being a bad kitty. Before you go, are you a Fupa Troopa? I'm part of the army. Join the ranks. And remember, Boxy is your kitten. Yeah, whatever happened to Boxy? We didn't even get to hear. She should have raised the penis, just like Boxy. Together, side by side. Let's see which one grew up to be the least feisty. I'm retiring in June. Can you finish your outro before then? Perhaps, Dan, perhaps. But you haven't given me any outro suggestions. I found a gift bag yesterday at CVS labeled Felt Santa Sack, and I took a pic of it and sent it to friends saying that it's what I had to do to get back into the nice list. This is true. It was a demand. He's a fapper trapper. We need backup over. This is more than one person. Over and out. I'll just say Merry Christmas at the end. It doesn't fucking matter. Thanks so much, friends, and have a very Merry Christmas. Christmas. Kevin Gomez with the 2, no Christmas background. No, I wanted to have Robin make a new one this year, but I didn't have time, and then I don't even know if I still have the file for the old one to run in the background, because whenever I'm like, you're putting in one, you have to remove the other, and then you clear out data, and you're like, oh fuck, where'd that one go? So hopefully next year I'll have Big Daddy Robin update that previous one. But guys, thanks so much for everything, and Merry Christmas to all of you, and Merry Hanukkah, and all the good holidays. Just make one up, just celebrate it, you know? Just gives you a reason to eat and all that good stuff. Who's Robin? He does all the thumbnails and animation and stuff for the channel. He's a very talented gentleman with his abilities on the computer. I'm on my computer. Anyways, I will get this up and edited over on Patreon. It's only $1 Reno over there for early access. And I do believe that they even have a free trial over on Patreon now. They started implementing that as like a beta thing. So I believe if you guys want to go over there and try a free trial of early access content on Patreon and early access to bonus content as well, you can do that. And give it a whirl for a month or something, see if it's worth your time. But then then I'll get this up on there and then over on YouTube tonight for your Christmas Eve pleasure. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and everyone was listening to Let's Read till sleep. But they were all having nightmares because some guy just wearing a robe broke in. It was Let's Read himself. He was very, very drunk. Off SoCo and cookies. Oh, hello, Oxy. But yes, good night, my friends. I love all of you, and I hope you have I might be streaming on Sunday. I don't know, seeing as it is Crimbus. And, you gotta go make a little snowman with Grandma. So we'll see what happens, but I'll keep you updated. Follow me on Twitter for any updates on that, and the off chance YouTube's notifications don't work, but hit the bell there. Just anywhere you see a bell, just fucking punch it. Just punch every bell you see, and you will be notified. Thank you for the 10. Merry Christmas, Joel. And Buttersaw Call, thank you. Merry Christmas, friends. And to all, a good night. Goodbye. Stay warm. Stay classy, too, if you would. That'd be great. It'd be so great. It'd be so freaking great. Smooches.